How you study now could make or break your chances of matching. My name is Olumide and I'm a third year orthopedic surgery resident here in Canada. And in this video, I'll be walking you through how I studied for the MCCQE1, the timeline I used, the resources I used, and my strategies to ensure that I scored high. As an IMG, you don't just want to pass, you want to excel on this exam. If you're watching this, you're probably preparing for the MCCQE1 or you're about to start preparing for the exam. Like you, I was once in your shoes preparing for this exam myself. This channel is here to help you match into the Canadian residency of your dreams. Let's get started. Before we dive into how to study, let's first talk about the test itself, because understanding the test is the first step to mastering it. The MCCQE1 is a one-day computerized exam. It assesses your clinical knowledge and your medical decision making. Recently, the MCC changed the structure of the exam. Before, it used to be broken into a multiple choice section and a case-based section. Now the exam has two separate multiple choice sections. Each section has 115 questions and you have about 2 hours and 40 minutes to complete each section. Between both sections, you have an optional 45-minute break. All this totals to just over 6 hours. This exam is offered year-round and you can schedule it through Prometric. Check the MCC website to find out the exact date the exam is offered. The exam can be taken in person or remotely, and you don't have to be in Canada to take the exam. So you could take the exam outside of Canada. In fact, you could be in the comfort of your own home on the other side of the world and still take the exam because of the remote proctoring feature that the MCC uses. Now, here's something that most of you don't know. If you pass the exam, you cannot take it again to improve your score. You want to put your best foot forward at your first attempt. The only time when you can retake the exam is if you fail, but you don't want to fail anyways, so you have to prepare your best the first time you're taking the exam so you can maximize your score and improve your chances of matching. Also, your score doesn't expire, so if you take the exam, you can use it for as many application cycles as you want. The score doesn't expire. Current pass mark is 226, but again, as an IMG, you don't just want to pass, you want to do well. So I would say aim for a score of at least 260. Next section, we're going to be focusing on the resources. There are 3 big resources I would recommend. First one is UWorld, which is a question bank. The second one is First Aid or Toronto Notes, a more concise bullet form book that covers the entire scope of the exam. The third one would be the MCC practice exams or practice tests. You could also add on a Canada Q bank to that. That would be specifically for the ethics section. If I were to pick one question bank to use, the question bank would be 100% UWorld. They have great clinical style questions with very detailed explanations. With those explanations, you can use UWorld even as a textbook if you wanted to. The MCC exams, although they're very expensive, is the thing that most closely simulates the actual exam. It's pricey, but close to the exam, I would say it's worth it. Next up, let's talk about your timeline. Typically, I would say to prepare for this exam, you need about 3 to 12 months. 3 months is on the lower side if, for example, you're currently in medical school or you just finished medical school, all the content is still fresh in your memory. On the longer end of the spectrum, 12 months, I would say 12 months should probably be the maximum, is if for example, you're working full-time at the same time, or you've been out of medical school for some time and you need extra time to build that foundation of knowledge again. If you're studying for the USMLE at the same time, you're in luck because the MCCQE1 very closely resembles the USMLE Step 2 CK. And so you can study for both these exams simultaneously. And that's what I did in my situation. In fact, I wrote both exams about 2 to 3 weeks apart. Next section, we'll be talking about strategy to help you score high on this exam. I would like to break this down into 3 different sections. Please follow closely as best as you can. The first stage is building your knowledge base. The second stage is solidifying that knowledge base. Third stage is simulating the test closer to the exam. So now we're in section 4, which talks about the strategy. But under section 4, this is stage 1. Hope you're following. In order to build your knowledge base, you should start with something like first aid or Toronto notes. I would also advise you study this system by system. For example, you start with cardiovascular, finish that, then move on to GI, finish that, then move on to renal. At the same time, you want to also be doing practice questions on UWorld. You'll be doing these practice questions in tutor mode. This is very important. Do it in tutor mode. This is because with each question, after you answer it, you get a very detailed explanation of what the topic is about, why the right answer was the correct one, and you also get explanations of the incorrect answers. And this helps with deeper learning and helps you consolidate the information. I want you to think of UWorld not just as a test, but as a learning tool primarily. Stage 2 comes after you've built your knowledge base. Next step will be to solidify that knowledge. And for this, I want you to go to your UWorld and reset it. Yes, reset it to 0. So you're starting all over. But this time, instead of doing the questions on tutor mode, you're doing the questions in test mode. You're doing the questions timed, and you're also mixing it, all the systems mixed together. This will help you kind of simulate what the questions will be like on test day. But also, when you do this, it helps you identify the areas that you're weak in. Once you identify those gaps, you can then go back and study those areas specifically. At the end of stage 2, you should have completed the UWorld question bank twice over. First time on tutor mode, second time timed, mixed, and on test mode. I want to say this: the most important part of studying is doing questions. The most important part of doing questions is reviewing those questions that you did. You have to spend time reviewing the questions and reading and understanding why you got them wrong or why you got them right. When I was studying, if I took 1 hour to do a block of UWorld questions, which is 40 questions, I'll typically take maybe 2 hours even to review that block, just because reviewing is where the magic happens. Reviewing is where you consolidate all your knowledge. Now on to stage 3. This is where you simulate the test day. At this point, you're probably a few weeks out from your exam date. This is when you go to the MCC website and buy those practice exams. Yes, I know they're very expensive, but again, this is the closest to the exam that you would get. Even if you can't buy all of them, I suggest that you buy at least one and go through it. The explanations aren't as great as UWorld, but at least you're able to see what the questions on test day would be like. For the ethics section, get a subscription for Canada Q Bank just to go through the ethics section. That's what I did. I didn't bother going through the rest of the sections because I'd already done UWorld twice and I didn't need any other question bank for the general systems or general medicine. I just needed the Canada Q Bank for the ethics section. Now you're ready to shine and score very high on exam day. But final thing or final tip, do not fall into the trap of getting stuck in stage 1. So many people spend a lot of time studying and not enough time doing questions. You want to study, yes, to build your knowledge and solidify that knowledge foundation, but majority of your time preparing for the exam should be spent doing questions and reviewing those questions. When you're doing questions and reviewing questions, you can always go back and study based on the questions you got wrong or based on the areas you feel you need improvement. But you shouldn't spend majority of your time studying without doing questions. That's pretty much how I was able to study for this exam and do very well in my results. Remember, if you're studying, it's not just how hard you study or how long you study, it's about how well you study and how you can study strategically, which I laid out for you in this video. Focus on understanding, practice actively, and trust the process. If you like this video, please go ahead and like, comment, share this video to anybody who you know is preparing for the exam or is about to start preparing for the exam. And let me know in the comments where you're at in your CaRMS IMG journey. Have you written any of these exams yet? In the next video, we're going to be talking about the costs of the whole CaRMS process. We're also going to be going into detail about how to prepare for the NAC OSCE, just like we did in this video for MCCQE1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Where you're at in your journey. Have you started?
Temporary issue has occurred while connecting to the server. Please try again later.